Hello tubers, this is Kurt with Edibles and Exotics coming to you from sunny Mesa, Arizona, and today's video is going to be on irrigation and how to water your plants. This is going to be a continuation on the video series for how to care for tropicals. So basically, if you've watched my other videos, you'll know I advocate for micro sprayers. I'm totally against drip irrigation. I think it's a total waste of money, time, and it's just not going to work for any sort of tropicals that you're trying to grow. If you're on flood irrigation, that's great, but in the heat of the summer here, you know, most places only get flood irrigation every 2 weeks, so you are going to have to water in between. So this video is still going to apply to you. So basically, when it comes to watering, you want to keep your plants hydrated at all times. I don't care what anyone tells you on any other videos, any other channels, any books, any blogs, whatever. Deep watering is nonsense, all right? It may work in other climates, but in Arizona, it is not going to work, all right? I don't care if you're in the high country, if you're in the low desert, whatever. It's just not a good idea, all right? So plant root systems. The feeder roots and the roots that take up the water are in the top 1 to 2 feet of soil, all right? So if you got a heavy layer of mulch, your root system is more than likely going to be where that mulch meets the topsoil, throughout the topsoil, and a little bit into the clay layer underneath the topsoil, all right? So that is going to be where 90% of your root system is, all right? If you have tiny little hair roots, which are feeder roots, throughout that topsoil, the surface area of those feeder roots compared to, let's say, your taproot going down below that 2 feet, or any sort of other roots, if you got a different type of root system that's not a taproot, the surface area is not going to be nearly as much, all right? So those roots that are below that 1 to 2 feet of soil are mainly there to anchor the plant, to keep it from blowing over, to give it stability, to help it grow taller and bigger, all right? You can water, you can fertilize down there, but if the top of your soil dries out, the top 1 to 2 feet, your plant will die, all right? So this whole deep watering thing, drip irrigation, it's a joke. It's not gonna work, all right? So if you have a tree planted in the ground or a bush or whatever, your root system is going to be anywhere from equal to where the canopy of that tree ends, spread out throughout the ground, even to that or further out, all right? So you want to keep that area moist. If you watch my channel, and there's a couple others, there is a gentleman in Southern California that has a very great channel. I'll put a link down in the description. He's spot on with the way he says to water. His climate is very similar to ours. It gets pretty damn hot there and it's pretty damn dry. So you can watch his channel too. He, like I said, he's spot on. He knows what he's talking about. I agree with him 100%. When it comes to watering, you want to water throughout the heat of the day, all right? You do not want to water at night, all right? Watering at night, especially in a food forest, what happens is all the creepy crawlies come out, especially isopods, and they will eat the bark. They'll eat the cambium off your trees and plants, and they will kill your trees and plants. So when the sun goes down, you want the soil to dry out on the top, all right? You don't want your trunks or stems staying wet because that is just not a good idea. In the winter, that is inviting stem rot into your plants too. So in the winter, very careful at night. Make sure that soil, the top layer of soil, dries out a little bit at night. You don't want it staying wet. If you get a rainstorm, can't help it. That's just how nature is. But you can help when you water. So watering in the heat of the day, all right? In the summer here, especially when our temperatures are above 110 degrees, you want to start watering around 11 o'clock in the morning, all right? Your plants, if they're newly planted plants, by 11, they may even start wilting. So you need to start watering minimum at 11 o'clock in the morning, all right? And you're going to want to water all the way until about 6:30 at night. That's when the sun intensity starts to diminish a little bit. The sun's rays aren't as strong because the sun's at an angle where it has to shine through a lot more atmosphere, and that actually diminishes the intensity of the sun. So, like I said, anywhere from 11 in the morning until about 6:30 at night, all right, is when you want to water. So plants are just like us, right? They want to stay hydrated. If you go out, let's say you go out for a hike or something like that, you don't drink water all night and then don't bring any water with you. That would be stupid. Treat your plants the same way, all right? If you're out gardening all day, I don't know about you guys, but me, in about 15, 20 minutes, I start getting dehydrated because I'm sweating like crazy, I'm moving around, I'm breathing heavy. You're expelling a lot of moisture. Plants do the same thing. They transpire through their leaves. That's how they cool themselves. That's how they get nutrients from their roots up to the leaves. That's how they grow. So you have to keep your plants hydrated. Plants absorb moisture out of the ground, all right? There's negative pressure inside the trunk, the leaves, the roots, and there's higher pressure in the soil. That allows that higher pressure to push that water into the plant, all right? Even if your soil is wet around that plant, it could be sucking up so much moisture through those roots that around the roots could start to dry out, even though the soil around it is moist. So if you go, you water, let's say in the morning, if you're doing it wrong, you water in the morning, you go out around 1 or 2 o'clock, you move some of the mulch aside, or dig a little hole and the ground looks moist, but your plant's still wilting. You're like, well, what the heck's going on here? Does it have root rot? No, it's none of that. It's because the soil around the roots, surrounding the roots, dried out. Okay. And it's just not getting the moisture it needs. So you need to replenish that water. It's just like you. Like I'm saying, you're outside working in the yard. You want to have water in reach so you can constantly drink your water, all right? You're not going to chug a gallon of water, work for 3 hours, and then go inside and have a heat stroke or dehydration or something. That's not a good idea, so treat your plants the same way. So when I water, all right, I don't even use that much water. People are surprised when I tell them. They see my yard, or I tell them what I grow, I show them my YouTube channel, and they're like, oh my God, you must use a ton of water. Well, I don't. My front yard is on sprinklers, pop-up sprinklers, because it used to be a lawn. All right, I still have a little bit of a lawn, but I just run the pop-up sprinklers. So my timer is set to water from 11 to 6, all right, every single day, 7 days a week in the summer. And it turns on for 2 minutes. Full flow, 2 minutes. So 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, etc. 2 minutes, that's it. So every hour for 2 minutes. My backyard, I water at 11:30, 12:30. So I do it every hour, but at the half hour level. So same thing with the backyard. I run my backyard for, I think 4 minutes, because I'm using micro sprayers so they don't put out as much water. So the gallons per hour for a pop-up sprinkler versus a micro sprayer is about half. So I run those for about 4 minutes every hour from 11:30 to 6:30 at night. All right. And that's sufficient to keep all my plants happy. All right. With micro sprayers, I'm going to show you guys in a minute, but what I do is I run 5/8 hose, irrigation hose, around the yard, and then I just tap into it with a 1/4 inch line to extend it. I stab a bamboo stake in the ground, I zip tie it to that stake, and I put my micro sprayer head on the top. And that's enough to get it up off the ground, to get a broader area for the spray pattern, so I get more even distribution and my plant roots can spread out. They're not just getting a little section watered and all the roots going there and the rest of it dying. Because a lot of times what happens, if you have a plant and you water this side but not this side, a lot of times that plant will start to lean, whether it's towards the wet spot or away from the wet spot. But if you watered all around and made it even, your plant's not going to lean. All right. that's due to the roots not developing on the drier side versus the wet side. So your plant, if the roots have really developed on the wet side, your plant, it could actually start pulling your plant that way. It's going to want to pull your plant into that wet zone. Or it could be that you have no roots on the dry side and there's nothing to hold that plant going this way, and it just falls over the second you get wind or something. So evenly water around your plants, very, very important. So as far as if you don't have an irrigation system set up, if you're doing it on the cheap, the micro sprayers are going to be your cheapest bet. You could probably do your whole yard for $100-200 maybe. That's minus the price of the irrigation timer, whichever you want to use. But the tubing, the elbows, all the fittings and everything, bamboo stakes, zip ties, all that stuff, dirt cheap. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can do section by section, you know. So you don't have a big expenditure all at once. If you can afford it, or if you already have it, or if you need to modify it or whatever, pop-up sprinklers are going to be your best bet because they do put out a lot more water. They have a farther reach, so you don't have to run as many, and they really just put out a lot of water. They really soak the ground, and they keep things cool and hydrated. So if you have pop-up sprinklers in your yard, like let's say it was a lawn or something, that could be easily retrofitted to different sprinkler heads, you know, whether it's a 360, a 180, a 90, a 45, whatever it is, to get your water to go where you need it to go. Again, with watering, if you're watering bare ground, that water, it's just going to evaporate. It's going to make the soil really compact. So always put down a layer of mulch. I don't care if it's bagged mulch. I don't care if it's, you know, dead leaves, whatever you guys can afford, whatever you guys have access to. Chip drop is great if you're in a populated area like the valley. If you're, you know, within city limits, usually you can get a chip drop and they're free. The people on chip drop that actually deliver have to pay a it's either $20 or $25 fee to list their services on that site. So I would recommend donating $20 to $25 towards that chip drop. That way you keep the tree trimmers happy and you actually get your chip drop soon instead of waiting months and months and months and months. All right. Those landscapers, arborists, tree trimmers, whatever you want to call them, they have to pay a lot of money to go to the dump or recycling center or wherever they drop these chips off. So if they pay $20 and you cover that $20, $25, whatever it is, fee, and they get to drop their chips in your driveway for free, they're more than happy. They will keep coming back. And you could always, if you're there and you could talk to them and get their number or whatever, then you could tell them, hey, you know, maybe in the fall or in the spring or whatever, I'm going to need another drop. So can I give you a call directly and avoid the whole chip drop thing? That way you guys don't have to list it, you know, don't have to deal with all that. And I get what I want, you get what you want, and we're both happy. So back to watering. If you watched my last video on how to fertilize a food forest, I showed you the pH testing of water. So our water, it's anywhere from somewhere around like 8.4 on the pH scale, which is pretty high, down to like 7.5 points on the pH scale, which is still pretty high. You know, your best bet is to have a little bit more acidic water, like rainwater's 5.5 usually on the pH scale, somewhere around there. So when you're watering, like I was saying before, if you're using drip or flood or anything like that and you have barren land and you're letting that top soil dry out, that higher pH soil, or higher pH water, especially our city water, it's really high in minerals and stuff. They call it salts. When that water dries out on that top layer of soil, you know, the soil dries out, the water evaporates, you're going to be left with all those minerals and stuff. It's just like if you boiled a pot of water and just let it keep boiling and boiling and boiling, you get that white, nasty stuff at the bottom of the pot when the water's gone. It clings to the side. Well, that's exactly what is going to build up in your soil. So when we do get rainfalls, if we get a decent amount of rain, that will actually dissolve that and push it down deeper into the soil, which is good. So we always hope for rain, guys, right? But if you have micro sprayers or if you have pop-up sprinkler heads, what you want to do is you want to keep that soil moist. You don't want the soil drying out. If the top layer of the wood chips dry up, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. But you want to keep your wood chips, your topsoil, and a little bit of the clay soil below that topsoil moist, because what that is going to do is it's going to keep all those minerals in solution. They're not going to have a chance to come out of the water and dry and form that crusty, nasty stuff. All right. That crusty, nasty stuff, the minerals and salts and whatnot, over time, as they keep drying out and building up, you're going to wind up with a very rock hard layer on top of your soil. It's not going to allow more water to penetrate. It's not going to allow air in. It's going to kill your soil life, and it's going to build up to toxic levels. So your feeder roots that are growing right below that are constantly getting bathed in this nasty, soupy, mineral salty bath, and it's going to kill your plants. Especially if your pH is on the high side, it's just going to keep going higher and higher. So with our high pH water, you want to keep that soil moist. You don't want to let it dry out. Don't listen to people when they tell you, oh, you don't have to water again until the top, whatever layer of the soil is dry, dig a hole, stick your hand in there, stick your fingers in. None of that's going to work, right? Keep it moist. The wood chips are going to help keep that moist, or mulch, leaves, whatever. So that's going to be your best friend when it comes to watering, all right? The fact that our pH level of our city water is so high, if you keep the soil moist, it shouldn't raise your pH that much, all right? Especially if you're using soil sulfur. It's going to help constantly wash that alkalinity out of your soil and make it more acidic, to make your plants absorb nutrients and be more happy, all right? I'll put a link to my previous video about fertilizer and pH and all that, and it'll explain a lot more. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I already did a video about it. But if you constantly let your soil dry out, the pH will go up, 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 up. No matter how much sulfur you use, it's just you're not watering enough. So in the summers here, like I was saying before, your plants are constantly transpiring. So they're basically sweating, all right? They're trying to keep cool, especially if we have a very dry day, low humidity, and a little breezy. That's just going to keep sucking water out of your plants, and your roots are going to keep sucking it out of the ground until the root zone dries out. So you need to replenish that all day long, all right? So I'm going to give you a little tour of my irrigation system here, of what I got going in the backyard versus the front yard. Again, my whole backyard was a pool about 3 years ago. I took the pool out myself, and all this around me, all this stuff I've been showing you guys in my backyard, it's only about 3-4 years old, somewhere around there. So proper watering, mulching, fertilizing, and this is what you guys get, all right? It's definitely way cooler in my backyard. If I go in my front yard, where I got the street and everything, and all the neighbors' barren yards filled with crushed rock and concrete and all that, I mean, it's hot as hell in the front yard and dry. The backyard is usually way more humid, way cooler, especially at night, and that's mainly due to just proper watering, guys. So watering is one of the most important things when you're growing tropicals. Remember, most of these plants grow in areas that receive abundant rainfall. So we don't get that here, so you guys are going to have to try to imitate that. So I encourage you guys to watch my video series on how to grow tropicals in the desert, because it's really going to open your eyes and really help you understand the basics of it. It's not rocket science, guys. Anyone could do this. Anyone could start out. Yeah, you're going to have a little stumbling here and there, but you will get it. So this video is going to show you how to water. So I'm going to flip you around here. We're going to do a little tour. I'm going to show you exactly how I irrigate, what kind of sprayers I use, what I don't recommend, and you'll see the results. All right, guys. So I'm going to bring you in here and show you exactly what I do. So this guy here, this is a micro sprayer, all right? It's got a little control valve, so you can adjust the flow. I have it set to full flow. This is a 90-degree head, so water sprays out of here, and it waters this entire area here. And as you can see, I have sugar cane popping up. I trimmed some of my sugar canes and I threw them down here, and this water irrigates this whole area every day. Like I said, it's what, 6 times a day for 4 minutes each time. And you can see we got mushrooms popping up. We got living soil. This is all mulched. All right. And these sugar canes, I threw these on the ground and look, literally popping up. There's one there. There's a couple back here. There's a little one right here that's just actually starting to grow. These are laying on top of the ground. So this is what proper irrigation will do for you. So this line here, it goes underneath this cactus, runs along this ant highway here, and back to this 5/8 irrigation tube. It's just teed in. All right. So like I was saying, all I did was I took a bamboo stake here and I zip tied it to it. I do 2 places, one here, one here. I stick the head up, and that's enough to spray this entire area. Come on the other side of these moringas. So this is watering this entire area. All right. That's actually no, I think that's sorry. I think that was, I said that was a 90-degree spray pattern. That is a 180-degree spray pattern. So it sprays this whole area. All right. You want to get a little overlap. So in the back here, underneath this golden Dorset, there's another one right there. I think the sun may be in your eyes. Let me get you in here. All right. There's another one. That's spraying this entire area. That is a 90. That is spraying this entire area here. And we got another 180. Again, teed in. Hose runs up, 2 zip ties, bamboo stake. You could use rebar. It's a little more permanent. The bamboo is probably going to rot on you within about a year or so. So if you can get some rebar and cut it up, that'd probably be a better way to do it. But like I said, we got overlap. So one back there, one back there, one over here. And there's actually one over inside there watering this blackjack fig. So here we go back here. We got another one over here watering the chaya tree, which is growing great. We got another one over here watering this grape, Concord grape, which is doing great as well. So over here in this garden mound, all right, we got a fig planted here, some shampoo ginger, we got some seed bins, some moringa, longevity spinach, a big mulberry tree. This one here is, they call it a 360 head, but it only sprays basically a 90-degree spray pattern out of this side and a 90 out of that. So I'm probably going to wind up changing that when I find something that works a little better. These micro sprayers, they are dirt cheap. You can get them off of Amazon, sometimes wholesale suppliers, or even Home Depot or Lowe's. And, you know, they could be anywhere for like 5 of them for, you know, $3-4. All the way you can get bulk packs of like 100 of them for probably like $25-30. But get some good quality ones. You don't want to buy cheap ones and have to replace them like 2 or 3 times a year. That would suck. But so guys, if you're going to do this setup, you're basically going to need one of these. One end is going to push into your irrigation tubing, your main line, and then you're going to push your other end of your 1/4-inch hose into that. So now you got your hose connected to your little hose connected to your big hose. And then these guys, the bottom there, you can see it just pushes right into the hose. You adjust your valve on the front for flow, and you aim your nozzle. That's all you got to do. All right, so irrigation wise, let's see what we got here. We got our irrigation wire. This is run into the garage to the control unit. All right, one of these wires is going to be a ground. All right, these things are operated on 24 volts DC, so you don't have to worry about getting electrocuted or anything like that. You're going to connect, like I have 2 valves here, you're going to connect however many valves you have to the ground wire, whatever color that is. I chose white. Then your other zones, I'll show you how you connect them to the unit, but each of those zones is going to be connect it to a different color wire. So I could do out here 4 zones. I got four different colored wires here, a red, a blue, a green, and a yellow. And then my white, like I said, is my ground. So I can do 4 zones off of this wire. This was about, I think, $50 for a 100-foot roll, and it stretches about 100 feet from my garage through the attic, back down outside. These guys here are inline valves, all right? These are about 15 bucks. And all you need to do is you need to get an adapter to adapt it. If you're doing it this way, this is a 3/4 inch valve. They also sell 1-inch valves and some other bigger ones, but you're gonna need a 3/4 inch adapter to hose fitting. And then on the other end, you're gonna need a 3/4 inch adapter to a 3/4 inch adapter for pipe thread. All right, and then these guys here, these are slip fittings. So basically what you're gonna do with these is you just push your hose in, and it's got a little seal on the inside, and that's gonna bite into this hose, and it's never gonna leak. So this is the adapter. This is your little compression slip fitting. I got a 90 here. They go down, they sell them in 90s. They sell them to join 2 pipes. Basically, the sky is the limit on these. You don't have to worry about it. So this is how I do it. If you have a underground box, they are kind of a pain in the ass. If you're doing it yourself, I really wouldn't recommend putting in a box under the ground. If something happens in the future, it just makes it a pain in the ass to replace. If you could do them outside, above ground, it's a lot easier. You could always put a plant pot in front of it, or you know, you can build a box around it or something like that. But this will keep them drier than if they're in the ground. A lot of times they're in the ground. They attract ants, bees, wasps. They make homes in there. So if you're running outside, that'd be your best bet. But this guy, I just got it on a full-wave manifold. Connect my hose to one. I got two valves on this one. These guys open and close, so you can turn them off and on. You got the main valve. This up here, you got to make sure you have an anti-siphon valve. These guys don't come with them. You can get these with an anti-siphon valve. I think it's like $5 extra. Not a big deal, but the anti-siphon valve will keep water from going back into your pipe when the thing turns off and on, which can be kind of gross. So something to think about. But if you have an anti-siphon already built in, you don't have to worry about it. So guys, if you're running one of these systems, you're also going to need end caps. All right. Again, these guys just push on. You push them on, they're there. They're never going to leak. The cool thing about them is if you unscrew the end is a hose fitting. So in the future, if you want to join these together, you can get an end that has a hose thread on it, and you can screw it right in. You take your cap off, you screw it right in, and now you have another system joined to your existing one. And these are really cheap. Most of these fittings, the straight through ones, the elbows, they're under $2. Sometimes they're under $1, depending on where you get them. All right, so this right here is a pop-up sprinkler head, all right? It's gonna screw into your standard sprinkler system. This one here is Orbit brand, really good brand. It's got brass. This little screw in the middle, you could adjust the flow individually per head. With this screw, you screw it in, less flow, you screw it out, more flow. They make these guys in different heights. I think this one was a 5-inch, and the head pops up, I think 4 or 5 inches. So this one has a pretty good reach. This one is a 180 degrees, so it sprays a half circle pattern. It says up to 15 feet. All right. The higher it is out of the ground, the farther it's going to go. If you sink this guy down into the ground too far, it's going to pop up. It's not going to spray 15 feet. But if you have it sticking up a little bit out of the soil, this part, when it pops up, it's going to squirt way more distance-wise. All right, guys, so sure you see my front yard, but this is my front yard. Lots of tropicals. All right. And like I said, this whole section here, this used to be grass when I bought the house. This palm tree wasn't here. I actually had that palm tree right here, this big tall queen palm, which are garbage, don't plant them in the valley. I had another one growing over here, which died, and then I got this tree stump over here from the one that died last summer. So all this stuff here I planted. This is all new. date palm grown from seed. Got some lemongrass that George gave me. If you watch my yard tour video, the latest one, I go through my yard and I show you pretty much what I have planted here. So here's the remainder of the lawn, and all this whole area is on one zone. So I got these pop-up sprinklers, and they spray this entire area, like I said, for 2 minutes every hour from 11 in the morning until 6 at night, and that's more than enough to irrigate this whole area. I do have some trees that I planted recently, like this guava, which has doubled in size even through the heat wave. This guy will wilt a little bit towards the end of the day. It's not a big deal. It's not wilting to the point where these leaves are crisping up. So what I do at the end of the day is I just go in with the hose and sprayer on the shower setting and water it for about 30 seconds to a minute. The same thing with my Buddha belly bamboo. It's a newly planted plant. I do the same thing. The end of the day, I just come out here, walk around, and I spot water for about 30 seconds to a minute each plant. All right, guys, this is where the magic happens right here. I just got this, and I'm going to turn this video into a little review of this. So this is the beehive. It's made by Orbit, all right? And I have, this is my rear irrigation wire running through the attic to the backyard, and this is the one with these two wires running to the front yard. So if you pull this cover off, you have your power in. This is going to go to your DC converter, the little square box that you plug into the outlet and the wall to power it, okay? These are our zones. This is a 4-zone. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 zones. Common is going to be your ground. So this white one that says common, that's going to be your ground, all right? This also has a pump turn on. So you could turn a pump off and on, all right? And then it's got a sensor. I don't use this because it's just kind of useless. It's for kind of lazy people or people that are really techie that really want to get crazy with it. But this controller is not, you can't control it unless you have either a Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi capable device, that like a smartphone or a laptop or something like that. There is no controls on this by itself. All right. So if you buy one of these and plan on using it, you need some sort of either Bluetooth enabled device, like a phone or a laptop, or a Wi-Fi enabled device, same thing, phone or a laptop, to be able to program this thing using the Beehive app. So I'm going to show you exactly how that app works. But this one here, like I said, this is the 4-zone version. They also have an 8-zone version. If you've got a gigantic yard, you don't want to water everything at the exact same time. So you might have more than 4 zones. If you've got, like, let's say an acre, and you're trying to irrigate that whole acre at different times, that way you don't lose water pressure and you get full irrigation to those areas, you might want to think about getting an 8-zone. I think that's all they make is 4 and 8 zones. So if you needed more than 8 zones, you could get either an 8-zone in one of these, or you can get 2 8-zones, whatever it may be. But this one, it was really cheap. I think I got it off of Amazon for somewhere around like 50 bucks. And it's basically just plug and play. The hardest part is setting it up. So I'm going to go inside now where it's a little cooler, and I'm going to show you on my phone exactly how the app works, and you guys could judge for yourselves. All right, so this is the Beehive app. This is on an Android phone. So let's click on this. All right, oops, let's go to the home screen. Okay, so this is the home screen. In the top left, it gives you whether it's connected via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Right now it's connected via my Wi-Fi network. In the upper right-hand corner, it gives you the time of the day, and it gives you that day's maximum high and minimum low temperatures. So right now you can see on the screen on the bottom here, it says rain delay. We don't care about that. We're going to water regardless, and water manually. So if you click on water manually, we could bring up the different zones here. So we got the front yard, which is zone 1, the backyard, which is zone 2, and the potted plants, which is zone 3. So we can click on one of those. So let's go potted plants. You could change however many minutes. You can go all the way down to 1 minute, and you could hit the play button in the middle and it will start to water for 1 minute and then shut off. If you mistakenly do it, you could hit play and then this will pop up. It'll tell you how many minutes or seconds are left, and then you could hit stop. So we will stop that. Then it's going to give you a message telling you that it was watered. So if we go over to programs, we got 4 program slots, A, B, C, and D. That's all they give you. So if we click on program A, let's just go to edit. So it's going to give you 4 different start times. That's the maximum. You got 4 programs and you will have 4 start times in each program. So 4 times 4 is 16. So you have a total of 16 start times. And this one here in particular, this is my front yard and my potted plants. So my front yard I have running from, let's see, 11, 12, 1, 2, and then that's 2 minutes at every hour. And then potted plants, we got 1 minute. So the cool thing about this is it'll run for 2 minutes, and that will run for my front yard. And then after that 2 minutes is over, that turns off, and then it starts watering the potted plants. So it doesn't water at the same time, which is a kind of a cool function. So I have this set to water every single day: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So at the bottom here, you see this little slider? Okay, a lot of people complain about this. Right now I have it set to 100%, all right? So what that's going to do is it's going to water for 2 minutes and 1 minute, exactly what I have it programmed to. If I move this up to 200%, it's going to water for 4 minutes and 2 minutes, all right? And if I move it down to 50%, it's going to water for 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I don't really see a use for that. Don't know why it's there. A lot of people complain about it, but if you have your times up here set to, like, let's say 2 minutes, and it's running for 4 minutes, or it's only running for 1 minute, but this is set right, come down here and set that to 100%. That way it waters exactly what you set it to. So that's my front yard. Program slot 1, program slot 2 is exactly the same. 2 minutes for the front yard, 1 minute for potted plants, and that goes from 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the hour. All right, same thing, 7 days a week. 100% watering. Backyard, I have that set to 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30. 2 minutes, same thing, 7 days a week, 100% on the water budget. And backyard number 2. That is 11:30, because I screwed up and I didn't have 11:30 in the first one, so I added that. So basically 11:30, and then it ends at 5:30. 2 minutes, again, 7 days a week, and set to 100%. So that's that. Smart watering up here, you can see in the top right hand corner, I have that turned off. That's just dumb. You don't need that. That's for newbies. You guys aren't newbies. The calendar, it's going to give you a little bit of a forecast. You can see the sun, you can see the little clouds, you can see rain. Doubt we're going to get rain those days, but according to Orbit, we might. This guy here, if you scroll down, it'll tell you a little weather forecast here. It tells you the humidity, precipitation, highs, low. It gives you the run times on different zones. So I don't know how it's figuring out what the moisture level is of the soil, but it's saying it's moist down to 0.23 inches. I don't know. I have no idea. But anyway, I haven't really figured this out. Maybe you guys can, but you could switch through months. So October, September, you can go backwards, whatever you want to do. That's how that works. Nothing crazy. On the home screen here, so we can cycle through our schedules. Kind of more redundant information. You can click on shop and it'll actually take you to their website, and you can buy more stuff, whatever you think you might need. The zones, you can click on the zone. It'll tell you exactly when it's going to run, scheduled run times, how long, all that sort of stuff. Soil moisture level, 91%. Again, I don't know where they're getting that from. It gives you the last watering, when it last watered, when it's going to water. You could edit the name, the picture, all that sort of stuff. All right, my beehive. So watering history is going to be one of the important ones here. So this will tell you basically your watering history for that day. You can go to the week, you can go to the month, you can go to the year, and it'll tell you, you know, little bits of information here. So it'll tell you exactly how long things have run, when they ran, all that sort of stuff, how long they have left to go. Kind of interesting information if you're a plant nerd. Notifications, this is another important one. We want the notifications turned on. So on the top row, it says enable notifications. Leave that on if you're Wi-Fi connected. The rain delay, freeze delay, I don't care about that. I'm going to water regardless. That's just kind of stupid. Watering complete, that will message your device that's linked to the account when every single scheduled watering cycle completes. So I get these notifications all throughout the day, which is good because if I don't get them, I know there's an issue. Device fault and device off. I have both of those turned on, and I lost power the other day, and with both of those on, I got no notifications. The only way I knew it didn't water was because I didn't get my watering complete notification. So I don't know about those two bottom ones. I don't know if they actually work, but if you leave the watering complete notification on, you'll know whether it watered or not. And if you got very expensive plants and it's 118 degrees, let's say, in the heat of the day, and all of a sudden you stop getting notifications and you try to connect to your beehive and it's not talking to you, you may have to leave work early, go home, and figure it out so you don't lose thousands of dollars in plants. Kind of a cool feature. Help and feedback, that's pretty self-explanatory. Your account, you can click on that, and that's got all your passwords and usernames and all that sort of stuff. Devices. You could link more than one device to this app. So if you had more than one beehive going, because you got a lot of zones or something like that, or whatever it may be, you could link more than one device, which is kind of cool. Device groups, I do not have any idea what that does, so I'm not doing anything with that because I only have one beehive hooked up. So I want to say one more thing, guys. With these programs, like I said before, you only have A, B, C, and D. So each one of those only has 4 start times. So what I did was I did the front yard and the backyard separate, and then, like I showed you before, I just linked my potted plants, which would be the spot spitters and the potted plants. I have that linked to my front yard zone. In the future, I may change it around. I may put my front and backyard zones together and do the potted plants separately, depending on if they're just getting too much water or not enough. The potted plants are a little more tricky than watering the yard. That's pretty much the tutorial of this. If you have any questions about it, if I could help you, put them down in the comments. I'll try to help you. If not, I'll point you in the right direction. All right, so I want to show you guys something that's really cool too. So me personally, I usually water most of my plants by hand, but it's just getting so out of hand. I'm spending sometimes an hour or more every single day watering my plants, and that's in the heat of the summer, which really sucks. So, you know, I build and restore and hot rod cars for a living, cars and trucks and stuff like that. You know, even though the shop is swamp cooled, it still gets nasty in there on the hot days, on the humid days. So when I come home from work, man, the last thing I want to do is go stand out in the sun at, like, you know, 4:30 in the afternoon watering plants. So I decided this year I need more time to be able to care for the plants and focus less on the watering. All right, so what I did was I used my beehive timer. I'm using one of those extra wires that I have coming off. One of those valves actually is for my potted plants. So there is a company, I'm going to put a link down in the description, and what they sell is, they call them spot spitters. All right, they come in different flow rates. So for different pot sizes, they'll spray, you know, more water or less water, you know, gallons per hour, depending on which one you get. They're all color coded. So they make them for anywhere from like 1 gallon pots all the way up to, I think, like 36-inch pots. All right. You could also buy a smaller size and just run a couple extras to do a bigger pot. So if you predominantly have, you know, like let's say 3-gallon pots or something, you could buy, you know, 3-gallon sprayers and use 2 of those on a 36-inch, or you could buy even smaller ones for like a 1-gallon, and you could use like 3 or 4 to get better coverage on your plant pot. So basically what you're going to need, they sell these are pressure regulators, because spot spitters need to be anywhere from 10 to 20 psi, right? This is a 20 psi, 2 to 20 gallons per minute pressure regulator. So this is going to screw in line between your hose and your valve, or your line and your valve, whatever you're using. So coming out of the valve, you're going to screw this into the valve, and then your outlet going to your main irrigation line is going to screw into the bottom of this. All right. And all you need is a couple of adapters. You can get those at the Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever, wherever they sell irrigation fittings. So this is your pressure regulator. This here is the spot spitter. All right. It's literally just a piece of plastic. I think it's actually acrylic. All right. So you're going to stab this guy down into your plant pot. All right. It's got a little arrow that shows you the spray, or, you know, you can just turn it on and aim it, whatever. But these things are cool. There's no moving parts. The way these guys work is there is a little slit in here. All right. When you stab your hose on, that little slit is open at the bottom, and it hits the bottom and it sprays out in a fan pattern. So they sell these in, like I said, different flow rates for different pot sizes, color coded, but they also sell them in 180 and 90-degree patterns. So it'll spray 180, which is basically out of the sides and forward, you know, in a fan pattern, or 90, where it comes out as a 90-degree V towards your plant. All right. So you have options with these. The other cool thing is, if you're irrigating pots like I do, and when you go to sell one, you're like, oh crap, now I got this thing. Well, here's the cool thing. You don't have to worry about like plugging the line or anything. You pull the hose off of this end, you flip it upside down, you stab it on that end. This stops the water flow. All right. It's only 10 to 20 psi in that line, very low pressure. This stops the water flow. So you can just take your line off, flip it around, you sell your plant, you lay this on the ground. When you get another plant that you want to put in its place, you just flip it back in, stab it in, aim it, and your plant's now getting watered. No problem, right? Kind of cool. These things will last forever. Like I said, no moving parts on these, just a piece of plastic. All right. So here's the other cool thing with these. So I run 5/8 irrigation main line. All right. So that's my 5-inch or 5/8 black tubing. All right. So this company, they also sell this tool to puncture the line. All right. So you puncture the line with this. All right. I think this is like $7. All right. Oh, and before I forget, these guys, you get a bag of 100 of these, whatever size you pick. You only get the one size and spray pattern, but you get a bag of 100 of these for $15. Cool, right? Like I said, I think this irrigation valve, I don't know, it's like 10, $15, something like that. They're dirt cheap, maybe even less. I'm not sure. This guy, somewhere around $7, $8. So use this guy to puncture the line, and they call it spaghetti tubing. All right. So normal irrigation tubing, like for the micro sprayers, is going to be 1/4 inch. Well, these guys run off of 1/8 inch, so half the thickness, right? Or half the size. And with this tool, when you puncture the tube, you take your spaghetti tube and you stab it right into the hole. You don't need any adapter because it's low pressure. It forms a perfect seal. It's never going to leak. It's not going to pull out or anything. And you just run those into your plant pot. So you don't need manifolds. You don't need all these little adapters, nothing. You just puncture it, stab your tube in, run it, cut it to whatever length, stick it on top of your spot spitter. All right. And your plant's getting watered. You know, you could probably set all this stuff up. If you had all the supplies and you knew exactly how you're going to run it. I mean, you could probably set it up in like an hour or two, depending on how many plants you have. You just got to plan out, you know, okay, I'm going to have my plants here. I mean, if you're doing rows, you could do, you know, one main tube with a bunch of tees, and run tubes down that, put caps on the ends, perforate your hoses, run your lines into each pot, you're done. Super simple, all right? If you decide, you know, you don't want that section or whatever, you can cut it out. You could put some unions in, and you could just run it, and you'll have that tube with all the holes and all the lines out. It's not a big deal. You could change stuff up. All this irrigation stuff is really cheap. Everything is dirt cheap. I would highly recommend not running this stuff underground. Leave it above ground. If you have to, you can run it through some mulch and just cover it with mulch to keep the sun off of it so it doesn't bake in a few years and start falling apart on you. But when it comes to irrigation, especially food forest, you're constantly moving stuff around, constantly planting. If you're watering pots with this system, the spot spitters, I would definitely leave it above ground, leave it in the shade out of the sun, because you don't want your plants getting hit with, 200-degree water because the tube's been sitting in the sun baking. So yeah, maybe cover it with mulch, maybe run it underneath, in between your plant pots so it's in the shade and it's nice and cool. But it just makes it a lot easier in the future when you want to change things, because I know you guys might think, oh, I'm going to set all this stuff up and it's going to stay like that. It's never going to. You're going to be changing stuff like crazy. Every year you're going to be like, oh, I planted this. I need to add that. I want to move it this way. I want to change this. So yeah, try to leave it above ground if you can. If you're going to bury it, don't bury it more than like an inch. And if you have mulch, just cover it with the mulch. Lay it on the ground, cover it with the mulch, done. If you have existing mulch, just move the mulch a little bit, stick it under, bury it just a little bit. That way you can find it if you need to pull it up, if it leaks, if something happens, an animal chews through it, someone hits it with a shovel, whatever it may be, you can repair it easy. You're not digging down like a foot trying to find this stupid hole, spending hours, muddy hands, and sweating to death and stuff like that. So try to leave it above ground if you can. Leave it out of the sun though. You don't want your lines baking in the sun, like I said. That's just not good. Not good for the plants, not good for the lines or your fittings or any of that stuff. So that's it. Spot spitters, I'd recommend those. It's the most cheap way to go. If you look at like micro sprayers online for potted plants, it's going to cost you a small fortune. But if you go to this website, like I said, the link's going to be down in the description. I'm not making any money off it. I just think it's an excellent product and I'm trying to help you guys out. So if you go to the link, you'll look it up, explore the site. They got a lot of cool stuff on there. They don't have many videos or anything. I think my video is probably going to cover more than theirs does. So, you can always come back to my video or you can message me down in the comments. If you have any questions on any of this stuff, if I wasn't clear on anything or, there's choices, you don't know which one to get, just message me. I'll be more than happy to reply and let you know exactly what to do. I always reply that day. Sometimes it's right away. Sometimes it's a few hours later, so I'm busy. But I'll definitely get back to you. So guys, I'm going to try to not sound like a broken record here. I know sometimes in my videos I do, but really important stuff, guys. Keep your plants hydrated, right? And like I was saying before, if you have a bunch of mature plants and you put a newly planted plant in there and you're watering enough for your mature plants because they have roots spread all through the soil, lots of roots, lots of surface area sucking up that moisture. Your newly planted plant, it's got a tiny little root ball, and even though the ground's moist, it doesn't have the roots spread out, doesn't have the surface area to supply that tree with enough water, or plants or whatever, plant with enough water to not wilt throughout the day. So you may have to water that plant extra in the morning and the evening, or just the evening or whatever when you get home from work or whatever. Just keep an eye on things. You don't want your newly planted stuff to die. It's probably going to take about a year for that plant to get its roots out enough to be able to supply that plant with enough water to keep up with the rest of the plants in that zone on that watering schedule. So keep an eye on your newly planted plants. Don't let them die. Just because all your other plants that have been planted there forever are doing great, that newly planted plant, it may not be getting enough water. Even though the ground is moist, it just doesn't have the root mass to be able to suck up as much as it needs. All right. And, you don't want your newly planted stuff dying. That would suck. So, like I said, guys, keep those plants hydrated. Make sure you're watering enough throughout the day. I just showed you guys my watering schedule. You might be surprised at how little water I'm using for how much I have growing in the yard and how great everything's doing. But like I was saying before, that's because my soil's really healthy. You know, I fertilize just a little bit when I need to. I got the mulch layer on top of the plants, trapping that moisture in, keeping the soil cool. Lots of shade. Shade's very important. The more shade you have, the less you're going to have to water. The more mulch you have, the less you're going to have to water. The more established your plants are, the less you're going to have to water. But you are going to have to water newly planted plants way more than non-established stuff. When people hear, you know, you're starting a food forest, or like you tell your spouse or something like that, or your roommate, whatever, or your parents, you know, hey, I want to start a food forest, and they're like, are you crazy? You know, how much water are you going to use? You know, it's not going to take as much as most people think. You know, a lot of people, especially with drip irrigation, they'll run their drippers all night. First of all, they're watering at the wrong time of the day. Second of all, they're watering so deep into the soil, 90% of that water the plant's never going to use. And the plants are going to look like crap. They're probably going to wind up dying after a few years. By you keeping the soil moist, having the mulch and everything, trapping that moisture in the soil, you're not going to use that much. You know, I don't know exactly how many gallons per day that I'm using watering. If I had to guess, I mean, maybe 50, 75 gallons a day. It's not that much in the grand scheme of things, you know. I grow and sell plants, so, you know, whatever my profits are, that pretty much offsets everything. You know, George, if you watch the videos on George's house, you know, he's getting a food forest going. He doesn't have the shade. He's got the mulch. A lot of his plants are still young, so, you know, the roots aren't spread out, and, you know, he's just watering mainly in spots, and he was a little concerned about his water bill. You know, and I just told him, I said, hey, look, you know, you're going to have the shade soon, and you got the mulch already. You know, your plants are going to be a little more established, a little more drought resistant, and, you know, it shouldn't be an issue. You know, I found that in my yard, the more the yard matured, the more shade I got, the more densely I planted. I'm actually using less water. You would think you have all these plants and trees transpiring, you know, just sucking up moisture and spitting it out. You know, you'd be going through a lot of water, but I think I'm actually using less water now that everything's established, just because of the shade and all the leaves and everything trap the humidity in, and, you know, plants are they're just more happy. You know, it's more like their natural environment. So another thing, guys, if you don't have the shade, you know, you can put up shade cloth, you can put up patio umbrellas, you know, look on Craigslist, offer up whatever for cheap used umbrellas and stab them all over the yard or whatever to shade your plants. Shade is going to help immensely. If you watch my other videos, I got the sunblock for plants and how to make that. I talk about using sweet potato vines for living shade. You could use those too. You can pick and choose what you're going to use to conserve water. Again, guys, don't waste water. You know, there's no point in wasting water, paying for it, when all you're doing is flushing nutrients away, you know, possibly damaging your root systems of your plants, you know, through root rot or something like that. Just water wisely, guys. Use your head. You know, look at your plants. Are they wilting? Are they not wilting? Are they growing good? Are they not growing good? You know, just kind of figure it out a little bit. If your plant's wilting and you're watering, you know, every hour, every single day during the heat of the day, and your plant's still wilting, it's probably because the roots aren't spread out enough to newly plant the tree. If it's an established tree and it's still wilting, you might be overwatering. Maybe you have a drainage issue. So if plants don't get aeration down into the soil, it starts to stagnate, and you could wind up with root rot or something like that. It could happen any time of the year. If someone tells you otherwise, they're wrong. I've had plants in the heat of the summer that I overwatered for probably 2-3 weeks, and the leaves started wilting and the tops of the plants started dying, and some of them I was able to save, some of them not. Some of them were, you know, bigger papayas that were 20 feet tall, only a year old, so they weren't past their lifespan. Some of them were bananas, you know. Usually trees don't do it as much. It's more of the larger herb type of plants that really have an issue with it. Trees that have more bark to them are usually pretty less sensitive to overwatering. So just keep that in mind, you know. If you think you have an overwatering issue, just, you know, look at your other plants in your yard. They're on that same watering schedule, and compare them, you know, is one more kind of like herby kind of plant versus a you know, a deciduous tree. And, you know, I'm sure you'll figure it out. It's not rocket science, guys. Just keep things well hydrated. So that's going to conclude this video. I hope you guys learned a little bit. And again, get rid of the drip. If you're on flood, add something for the in-between times when you're not getting that flood irrigation. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, tell all your friends. And until the next video, guys, keep growing.